Hello, my friends. How are we doing today? My name is McChrist Doolin, and welcome back to another fun-filled episode of Everything Freaky and Full of Mystery. Here we tell stories under topics of the supernatural, downright shocking, and uncomfortably cringy, while I work on a current project from Native Crow, Taxidermy and Oddities, LLC. Here are a few places you could find me. Like me, share me, and subscribe to my channel, and check out my Etsy shop for projects I've built and future ones to come. Also, there are some exclusives only posted on my Facebook and Instagram, so be sure to check that out. Today, we are working on a coyote skull. I've already halfway dressed it with a pelt and put a rose quartz eye in its socket. We're doing it in a fixed open mouth position, similar to the one that I've built here. This one here is one that opens and closes, and it houses a wolf spider in its mouth. This piece is currently listed and available on my Etsy shop, so check it out, guys. Alright, so today's story is a downright shocking story. It is definitely a true story. The names that are used in this story are not the actual names of these people. They are alternative names for clarity and protection. Alright, let's get into the story. It was a gloomy summer day in rural Illinois, 2017. A 23-year-old woman by the name of Kimberly had just moved to this small town area. She only knew one person, named Claire. Most people of the town seemed to be older folk who were retired. Kimberly wanted to try to meet more people and feel more comfortable in the area. It was hard having a social life when she only knew one other person, Claire, who had a family to care for and a full-time job as a waitress at a local diner. As Kimberly had expressed wanting to open up and meet new people, Claire had remembered that there was an elderly couple who visited the diner often. They seemed nice and were currently in search of a dog sitter. They were planning on taking a trip to Florida and needed someone to tend to their dogs while they were gone. Kimberly had a job working from home, so she was open to taking on this extra responsibility in hopes that it would make her fit in easier to the town. She got the contact information of this couple and arranged a time to meet them and go over care instructions. The next morning, she drove out to the address. When she arrived at the house, the first thing she noticed was how run down it looked. It was an old 70s ranch-style brick house, but she didn't feel fearful or uneasy. Kimberly was a person who got joy out of exploring abandoned properties and houses, so seeing the condition of this house only piqued her interest. She walked up to the door and gave it a gentle knock. The doorknob turned, and it creaked open as an old woman welcomed her in. "You have a lovely home," Kimberly said as she tried to make small talk. The elderly couple just looked at her, having nothing much to say. Kimberly awkwardly followed them through the house as they gave her a tour. They'd open doors and let her peer in, not saying anything at all. The whole experience was just weird, but she tried not to let it bother her too much. Maybe the couple just was shy and didn't know what to say. She did, however, feel highly uncomfortable at the times she noticed them staring at her extra hard. The couple led her all through the house, and the property, and she noticed cameras almost everywhere. She had asked why there was so much surveillance on the property. "Oh, we sell firearms on the side. We have surveillance for insurance reasons, but don't worry too much about them," the old woman said. Kimberly felt a little weirded out by it, but chose to look at it as a safety and protection perk. There was an office that had monitors where the footage of the outside property was displayed. Seeing this made Kimberly feel at ease, and knowing she could see if anything or anyone was outside. She was expected to stay in the house as a live-in dog sitter while the couple was on vacation. At the end of the tour, the couple grabbed their luggage and made their way out to the vehicle. Kimberly was actually relieved to see them leave, as they seemed strangely weird to her. She went about the rest of the day doing her work from home and caring for the dogs. Everything seemed to go really smooth, and she thought, "This will be easy." The next day rolled around, and she started the day caring for the dogs, letting them go out the doggy door, feeding them, and giving them some attention before getting on her computer and doing some more work for the day. She got completely lost in her work, and the day flew by. Before she knew it, it was evening, and she was starting to get hungry. She got up to make dinner and passed by those monitors where the footage display was. One of the screens had gone offline. She looked at it with frayed eyebrows, but convinced herself that being in a rural area, the Wi-Fi must be finicky. She made her dinner and sat down on the couch to watch some TV. The evening was quiet and peaceful. Even though this wasn't her house, she did start to feel more comfortable as time passed. Around 10 p.m., however, the dogs heard something outside and darted out the doggy door. Kimberly panicked, mostly because it was late and pitch black outside. She didn't want the dogs running outside, and she definitely didn't want to have to go out there after them. She grabbed her phone and turned on the flashlight, running outside to find the dogs. They were towards the back of the property, barking at a specific spot at the edge of the fence where the wood line was. Reluctant to get too close to the woods and edge of the property, Kimberly decided to lure them back with treats. She shook the container, and the dogs spun around, running back into the house. They hopped up on the couch, and Kimberly took a heavy chair and pushed it in front of the doggy door. That should keep them inside, she thought. All the stress and excitement of the night had her exhausted. She stepped into the bedroom with the dogs and settled in for the night. The next morning she woke and looked around the room. The dogs were no longer there with her. She got up and searched the house, calling for them and whistling. Then she noticed them running around outside. Confused, she quickly looked over to the doggy door. The chair was moved across the room. Her heart dropped as she felt the blood leave her face. That numb, sinking feeling overwhelmed her. How did it get there? Panicked, she immediately grabbed her phone and called Claire. "Something weird is going on here. The chair I placed in front of the doggy door last night moved on its own, and the camera went offline, and I'm starting to freak out. Can you please come over and check the house with me? I just feel so uncomfortable right now," she exclaimed. Claire calmed her down over the phone and assured her she'd be there shortly to help her walk the house. She showed up about 20 minutes later, and together they cleared every room. Kimberly had grabbed a knife for protection before checking the house over. There was no one. Nothing. Everything seemed normal. Claire told Kimberly, "Maybe you're just misremembering. Maybe you didn't push the chair as far as you thought you did." Kimberly started to think maybe she's right. Maybe I'm just overthinking. This is a new town, I'm in a stranger's house, and I'm a little out of my comfort zone. Claire told her not to worry and to take it easy before she said her goodbyes and left the house. Kimberly felt a little better and got the dogs cared for before starting her work for the day. Nothing out of the ordinary happened all day. It was quiet, peaceful, and calm. Dinner time rolled around, and she went to the kitchen to eat. She finished her meal, let the dogs out to go potty one last time for the night, and returned to the office to hop back on her computer. As soon as she stepped in the office, though, she saw not just one monitor was offline, but now they were all offline. This wasn't right. This couldn't be just a spotty Wi-Fi situation. She reached for her phone and messaged the old woman. "Hey, all the cameras went down. Do you want me to troubleshoot and try to fix them for you?" Kimberly felt incredibly uneasy that she couldn't see what was outside anymore. She didn't know why the cameras went down, but her sense of security was not as strong without them. Of course, she didn't let that be known to the owners, though. She played it off like she just wanted to help them out, knowing the nature of their business and the importance of the surveillance. After waiting and hearing nothing back, she just assumed that because the couple was on vacation, they probably wouldn't be on their phones much. She decided to ignore the monitors, as she didn't want to cross any boundaries and potentially mess something up. Several hours had passed by, and Kimberly decided to move to the bedroom. For comfort, she brought the knife she had on her earlier to keep on the bedside table. She climbed into bed and turned on the TV. The TV broke up the silence and brought about a comfort that relaxed her. She thought it'd be easier to sleep with it on rather than to sit and listen to any noises that may go bump through the night. Just as she was starting to feel really relaxed and tired, the dogs took off from the foot of the bed and ran over to the doggy door. Panicked, she had grabbed the knife off the bedside table and ran after them. They were outside, sniffing and barking at that same spot by the fence. She tried to call them back, doing a whispered yell towards them, not wanting to actually go out there and grab them. As she was standing in the doorway, calling for the dogs, there was a loud thump sound that came from the backside of the house behind her. She spun around, wide-eyed and heart racing. She called for the dogs again, frantically trying to get them to come inside. They finally returned, and with shaking hands, she closed the door and pushed the chair back in front of the doggy door. This time, she took a picture of it with her phone, so she knew for a fact she pushed it right there in that location. She turned around and slowly walked forward towards the back of the house where the thump came from. She steadied her breath, trying to calm her nerves with every step she took closer and closer to the door. She had the knife in one hand and phone in the other. She stopped in front of the door that led to the garage. She slowly opened it and used her phone's light to try to see inside without stepping through the threshold. She was frozen in fear. She had that sinking feeling that she wasn't alone, that there was something else there with her. She spoke out, "Is someone there?" But of course, she was met with silence. She then called out the names of the homeowners, even though they should be many miles away. Nothing. She looked down at her phone, thinking about calling Claire again. But it was now after midnight, and Claire has kids and is likely in bed. She didn't want to wake her or bother her. Then she thought about maybe calling the police. But the embarrassment of what if it's nothing? What if it's all in my head, or just a wild animal? I don't want to look like a fool, she thought to herself. She stepped backwards and closed the door, locking it behind her. She moved back to the bedroom, trying to force all the events of the night out of her mind. About 20 minutes had passed by, and her phone lit up with a notification. It was a message from the woman that read, "Don't worry about the cameras. You are safe." Kimberly was a little taken aback from this response. Internally, she felt uneasy that the cameras were down, but she never expressed that to the woman. Why would that be her first thought? Plus, it was late. It would be about 2 a.m. in Florida right now. Why is she messaging at this hour? Before Kimberly could even respond, another message came through reading, "Also, can you make sure I didn't leave the garage door open? I don't want anything getting inside." This was that door. The one Kimberly had just been at. An area in the house she definitely did not want to return to. She thought to just ignore the message, treat it as if she had fallen asleep and didn't notice it. But a couple minutes passed and another message popped up. "Hi, I know it's late, but can you please check on this for me? I'm worried." Kimberly was quite confused. She couldn't understand why this was such an urgent thing that the homeowner wanted. Why the woman kept pressing for her to go check this garage door. She did not want to do this. Her gut was screaming at her not to. She was terrified and wanted for the whole dog-sitting job to be over. But she forced herself up out of bed, thinking to herself, well, maybe that thump I heard was an animal. Maybe the garage door was left open and a raccoon or something got in. She moved towards the door, and as she got close, she heard a shuffle come from the other side. Something was in that room. She stopped and pressed her head close to the door, listening intently. At that moment, her phone went off again. It was another message. "I see you're up. Can you please go in and check?" Her heart quickly sank with a rush of adrenaline. Then it occurred to her she was on camera. She looked up at it and back at her phone. Knowing now, she had to do it. They were watching her. She slowly opened the door with her arm outstretched. As she peered in, she noticed the garage door was indeed left open. She didn't want to go in to close it, but pushed forward to get it over with. As she moved deeper into the room, her phone lit up again with another notification, but this time the little bit of illuminating glow lit up a faint outline of an arm just 2 feet from her and the door. She screamed and turned around. She ran out as quickly as possible and shut and locked the door behind her. She ran into the kitchen and scrambled to grab her keys, then ran out to her car, shaking and fumbling her keys in the ignition with panic. She started the car and threw it in reverse. As her headlights shone, she saw the garage door was open, and in it, a man in a jacket was crouched down right next to the door she was instructed to close. She drove frantically to the police station. In tears, she explained everything to the cops. The police decided to send a unit out to check the property and the house. While they were doing that, Kimberly sat at the police station waiting on their updates from the property, and she messaged the woman. She told her what was happening and asked her to look on the cameras to see if she could see anything. She received no response. About 30 minutes later, the police officer came back stating he saw nothing. No forced entry, no person. The garage door was open, but the house was clear. The police offered to follow Kimberly back to the house and do another check with her to make her feel better. They made their rounds one last time, and there was absolutely nothing. The house was clear. The police assured her everything was fine and to call if there were any other concerns before they left. She couldn't sleep after her experience that night. I know what I saw. It was real, she thought to herself. Even though the house was clear, she still stayed up on the couch, restless. It was about 4 a.m. Roughly 20 minutes after the officers left, the woman finally messaged back. It said, "Hi, plans changed. We'll be home soon. You could go home now." No way, Kimberly thought to herself. People who were supposed to be in Florida are now almost home with little to no warning and completely disregard the fear-filled text previously sent. They were coming home 4 days early and close already? Kimberly didn't hesitate, though. She was beyond ready to get the heck out of there. She grabbed her keys, got in her car, and started down the road. She got about halfway to the stop sign at the end of the road when she looked up in her mirror and saw a vehicle with no lights pull into the driveway. She grabbed her phone and texted the woman, saying, "Someone just pulled in your driveway as I was leaving." She got a quick response, and it simply said, "I know." Chills ran down Kimberly's spine. She was filled with terror and fear. She was set up. They had been in the area the whole time and controlled the cameras to keep her from knowing where they were. Likely, every time the dogs took off outside, they were reacting to the owners as they were stalking and plotting something. No one knows what the intentions were this couple had, but the possibilities were terrifying and sickening to think about. Were they planning to abduct Kimberly? Were they plotting to hurt her in some kind of way? What were their thoughts and their plans behind watching her and tricking her into stepping into that garage? What would have happened if she did step into that garage and that man had grabbed a hold of her? Claire sincerely apologized over and over again. She had no clue that elderly couple was so creepy and weird, and that they tried to do something to her. She said they never returned to the diner after that night. Neither one of the girls ever saw them or spoke to them again. As Kimberly aged, the terrifying memory still stuck with her. What she thought was a simple dog-sitting job could have actually turned to the end of her life. This story is based entirely off of true events, and unfortunately there are terrifying situations similar to this that happen very often. It's sad to say that the world has become so dangerous, and that trusting humans is something that you really just cannot do. And definitely don't judge a book by its cover, thinking that, oh, it's just a sweet elderly couple. What harm could they possibly do? The truth is, anybody is capable of anything. We live in a world where you have to be extra cautious and extra vigilant and stand guard in every situation. Never let your guard down. I hope you guys got as much of a chilling shock out of the story as I did when I first heard it. I thought to myself, them being a sweet old couple, what harm could they do? So when I heard the ending of the story, it really blew my mind to think that even somebody who seems so innocent could have such dark and evil intentions. You just never know what kind of threats are all around you every day. And whatever happened to that elderly couple after they were kind of uncovered for who they really are? Did they just move away? That was a small town and those girls never saw them again. So what happened to them? Maybe they were just staying somewhere to prey on someone, to abduct and move somewhere else. Thankfully, Kimberly got away. She is a lucky, lucky person. Some people, unfortunately, aren't as lucky. Definitely always keep your guard up and protect yourselves. And if it is a fight or flight situation, do everything you can to survive, whatever the means may be. I really enjoyed doing this story today. If there are other true scary stories that any of you guys could think of that you might want me to cover, go ahead and send them my way. I'll definitely check those out and see about covering a story on them while I'm doing a craft for Native Crow Taxidermy and Oddities. I think a reason why I liked this story so much, obviously I'm very thankful that it had a happy ending, but personally, myself, one of my greatest fears is being abducted. I would have been that person, absolutely, who would have rather seen any animal at all in that barn over a human. Humans, to me, are the most terrifying creatures on the face of this planet, simply because they are so incredibly unpredictable, and they could have such evil, heartless intentions. I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts, and I hear some of the awful things that sick people do to other people and somehow get some joy or satisfaction out of. And I could only imagine how terrifying that was for the victims in those situations. Just hearing those daily when I listen to them imprints this fear in me and makes it so much stronger. So hearing this story and what a close call it was just brings that fear right out of me. It's odd to say that I like these scary stories, but I do. I like them. I just don't ever want to be in that situation. All of it is just so completely mind-blowing to me to know that someone is so capable of doing stuff like that. Abduction and torture stories are always going to be that top tier scare factor for me. But let me know what you guys think. Like I said, if there are any stories that fall into this downright shocking and fearful category, put them down in the comments and I'll check those out, and then I could cover that story just for you. So I'm looking at my piece that I worked on today, and I think it's coming along very nicely. I think it's very pretty and different and unique to kind of add this broken glass to give it that geode effect as it's like growing in nature and everything is just growing on top of it, while it's also half mummified coyote. Here I am getting ready to place the wolf spider in its mouth, just like the other one. I enjoy using wolf spiders in the coyote skull creations. I'm very satisfied with this piece, but I think I might add just a little bit more to it. I won't be finishing it in this episode, but at the end of this episode, I will definitely be uploading a film of it completed. So stick around to the end and check that out. If you guys liked the content that we went over today, please be sure to like and subscribe to my channel, and be sure to hit the little bell at the bottom of your screen to get all notifications every time I upload a new video. This is my Friday upload, everything freaky and full of mystery. Be sure to also check out my Wednesday uploads. Those will be an episode called Crafting with Crow, where I will be working on another project from Native Crow Taxidermy and Oddities, while I am talking about an interesting story that just so happens to be on my mind. It could be any kind of topic. So definitely check that out too, guys. I appreciate you sticking around and watching this video with me today. Don't forget to check out my Facebook and Instagram. I'll see you guys next week. You all take care. Be safe out there. The world is crazy. Bye, guys.